All right, so let's dive into all this February entertainment news. It feels like a lot happened.
Yeah, this is going to be a wild ride.
We're going deep on all the big stories from that global TV, film, and media industry news roundup that Further and Better put together for February 2025.
Buckle up.
We're talking lawsuits over stolen talent show ideas, AI trying to write Hollywood scripts.
Oh, yeah, and we'll get a peek at what those TV execs really wish they had on their schedules.
Yeah, that's always fun. To help break it all down, I've got our expert here with me ready to dive in.
Let's do it. This stuff is fascinating. All these stories, they're all connected to this bigger picture of how entertainment is changing. Right now, it's all about technology, these creative battles, and just this constant chase to keep people's attention. It's all tangled up.
Okay, so let's start in the Netherlands with a talent showdown. Apparently, there's this thing called lift-to-stage mechanics, and it's at the center of a legal battle between this production company, Format Factory, and some big names like RTL Nederland and Talpa Studios. Can you quickly explain what lift-to-stage mechanics even are? Because I'm kind of blanking.
Yeah, good question. It's basically how they design the stage so contestants or performers are dramatically lifted onto the stage from below, like a surprise reveal, adds that wow factor.
I see, I see. So Format Factory is saying these other companies stole that idea for their shows.
Exactly. They're saying it's not just stealing a song, it's like stealing the whole look and feel of the show. And they're going all out. Format Factories filed complaints, not just in the Netherlands, but in Belgium too, and even with the European Commission. This could be a landmark case for how they protect format rights internationally.
Whoa, okay, so this isn't just a little squabble. This is a big deal.
Yeah, think about it. Most of us just watch these shows for fun, but behind the scenes, there's serious money and legal stuff happening. These formats are valuable intellectual property, right? Like The Voice, that's a format that's everywhere.
Right, right. It's the same basic idea, but they tweak it for different countries.
Exactly. So this case could impact how the whole industry works.
All right, so next up, AI. It feels like AI is everywhere these days, and now it's shaking up the film industry, post-production, and maybe even script writing. I have to admit, I had a mini panic attack when I read about AI writing scripts. Is my job safe? What do you think about this whole AI and creativity thing?
Well, it's a huge topic, and people have some strong opinions about it. The Roundup captures this debate really well. It presents two completely different perspectives. We've got Reezy Miller, she's a post-production script editor, and she's all about how important human understanding is. Like, for subtitles, AI might miss those subtle things in language, or stuff that's specific to a certain culture.
I see.
But then you've got Hanabasi, he's the CTO of Stability AI, and he sees AI as a tool that actually helps creativity, not destroys it.
Okay.
He talks about AI making visual effects and even helping come up with story ideas.
Interesting. So it's not like AI is taking over completely, but it's definitely changing how things are done.
That's a good way to put it. You could be more about humans and AI working together.
Right. Using AI for certain tasks so the human creatives can focus on what they do best, the storytelling, the emotional stuff.
Okay, exactly.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better, but still a bit skeptical. I guess we'll have to see how it all plays out. Now, for something totally different, let's go to sunny Los Angeles. There's a real estate battle brewing there, and it could have a big impact on Hollywood.
This is where things get interesting. We've got Rick Caruso. He's the billionaire who developed the Grove Shopping Center, and he's going head-to-head with this massive project to redevelop the historic Television City studios.
Hold on, so a shopping mall guy is taking on Hollywood. What's the deal?
Well, Caruso's using environmental regulations to try and stop the project. He's basically saying it goes against California's Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. So he's claiming that this project is more about making money from real estate than it is about helping the entertainment industry. But of course, the project also has its supporters, and they say it's a much-needed investment in an industry that's changing rapidly.
It's like a battle of the titans, and the future of Hollywood is caught in the middle.
It really highlights how tense things are in LA between development and preservation. LA's a city that's always changing.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Hollywood, the Oscars are coming up, and our Roundup mentioned that the race is heating up. I bet the studios are already in full campaign mode.
Oh, absolutely. This is the time when marketing and campaigning become almost as important as the films themselves. We'll see studios doing everything they can to get their movies noticed by the voters.
It's like a whole different game, the awards game.
It is. And a Roundup also mentions some interesting moves by studio executives, which can often tell us about changes happening in the industry. It's like a game of chess. Studios and executives are always making moves and trying to get ahead.
All right, well, before we get too lost in the boardroom drama, let's talk about something a little more fun. The Roundup mentioned a survey of TV programmers where they revealed the shows they wish they had on their schedules.
Oh, right.
I always love this kind of stuff. It's like a peek behind the curtain to see what catches the eye of the people who are constantly pitched new shows.
Remember Boy Swallow's universe? that Australian drama we talked about a while back?
Yeah, the one with all the rave reviews.
Well, Jennifer Collins from ABC and Dan Monahan from Paramount both said they wish they had that show.
So it's not just the critics who love it. The people who actually put shows on TV are impressed too. Does that mean we might get an American version?
It's definitely possible. It shows that there's still a big demand for well-written dramas, even in a world where reality TV and streamings are so big.
Okay, so what else is on their wish list? Anything that gives us a hint about what we might be watching soon?
Well, Hamish Turner from Nine Now mentioned Squid Game, The Challenge. Sounds kind of terrifying, but also really interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, Squid Game was huge. It makes sense to try and capitalize on that with a new twist, but turning it into a reality show, that's a bold move.
It shows how popular competition shows still are, especially the ones that push boundaries and have high stakes. And then you've got Brooke Hall from Seven. He admitted that he wishes he had Australian Survivor.
The classics never die. Even TV execs have their comfort shows, huh?
It seems so, but remember, they're also looking for the next big thing. The London TV screenings are a good way to see what's trending globally. And this year, it's a mix of the familiar and the new reboots and adaptations are still popular, like the new A Prophet series.
So nostalgia is definitely a factor. What else is trending?
Crime dramas are still huge, especially ones set in other countries. Shows like Kabul, which is set during the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, and Safe Harbor, which explores the criminal underworld of Rotterdam.
Yeah, this sounds pretty intense.
They tap into this fascination we have with stories that take us outside our own world and show us different cultures and perspectives, even if those perspectives are dark or unsettling.
There's something about exploring the unknown, right? Even if it's a little scary.
Definitely. But it's not all doom and gloom. The London TV screenings also had some fresh, original stories, like Sunny Nights, which is a comedy about two siblings who start a spray tan business in Sydney.
Okay, so there's still room for some lighthearted fun amongst all the crime dramas and reboots. I like that balance. So, before we jump into part 2 of our deep dive, anything else from these screenings that really stood out to you? Any big takeaways?
I think the main takeaway is that the TV landscape is incredibly diverse and dynamic right now. You've got the streaming wars, changing viewing habits, and this constant need for new content. It's a really interesting time to be following the industry.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot of ground already, from legal fights to AI to the world of television, and there's still more to explore. In part 2, we'll go behind the scenes of some exciting new productions and dig deeper into the people who are shaping the entertainment landscape.
Welcome back.
So we're picking up right where we left off, digging into all the stuff that's shaping film and TV.
This time we're going behind the scenes to see how these industry shakeups are actually playing out.
All right, let's do it. Our first stop takes us to the world of international productions. Warner Bros. International TV Production, or WBITVP as I guess the cool kids call it, is making some moves to navigate this global market. It's been interesting to see how things have been shaking out since that Warner Bros. Discovery merger.
Yeah, lots of people were wondering what they do with their international stuff.
Right.
But Ronald Goes, he's the president of WBITVP, he's been saying their focus is on what he calls smart growth and local excellence.
Okay, I like the sound of that, but what does it actually look like?
So instead of trying to do the same thing everywhere, they're really trying to understand the specific needs of each market.
Right.
Like they're expanding into new areas like Italy, but they're being really strategic about it, focusing on unscripted stuff and building strong partnerships with local companies.
It's a good reminder that the entertainment world is global now. You got to really understand different cultures and what people want if you're going to succeed.
Totally, one size does not fit all. And speaking of tailoring content to specific audiences, remember those TV programmers who revealed what shows they're jealous of? Always fun to get a little peek behind the curtain like that.
Oh, yeah, it's like eavesdropping on the people who have to decide what actually gets made.
And remember how both Jennifer Collins from ABC and Dan Monahan from Paramount both said they wish they had Boy Swallow's universe.
Yeah, that show seems to have really made an impression.
It shows that good storytelling, even in a market that's so crowded, it can still cut through. And then we've got Hamish Turner from Nine. Now, he's intrigued by Squid Game The Challenge, which, kind of makes sense. Squid Game was a phenomenon.
Taking a global hit like that and giving it a new spin, I can see the appeal. But a reality show version, that's wild.
It also shows how much people love competition shows, especially the ones that push boundaries and have high stakes.
And let's not forget Brooke Hall from Seven. He admitted he kind of wishes he had Australian Survivor.
Even the people who program TV, they have their favorites too, Nostalgia plays a part in what we watch, even for the executives.
Okay, so we've talked about the business side of things, but now let's talk about the creative side, the people who actually make all this happen, the writers, the directors, the producers, all the crew members who bring these stories to life.
Totally. And our Roundup gives us a little glimpse into that with this behind-the-scene look at 1,000 Blows. It's a new series set in Victorian London in the 1880s.
Oh, cool. I love that era.
Yeah, and it's got a great cast: Stephen Graham, Malachi Kirby, Aaron Doherty. It's a Disney Plus series, and there's already a lot of buzz about it.
Victorian London, gritty boxing rings. I can already see the potential.
Right. And Tom Miller, the series producer, he talks about how close the cast and crew are and how much attention they paid to historical detail. It sounds like they're really dedicated to making the world of the show feel authentic.
I always appreciate that kind of attention to detail. It really makes a difference. It reminds us that behind every show or film, there's a whole team of talented people working their butts off to entertain us.
Absolutely, they're the unsung heroes of the industry. Speaking of unsung heroes, let's circle back to Reezy Miller, the post-production script editor. Remember her?
Yeah, the one who's passionate about accurate scripting for subtitles.
Exactly. She's a big voice in that whole debate about AI in film. She believes that AI can be a useful tool, but it can't replace the human element, especially when it comes to understanding language and translating it for subtitle.
It's about finding that balance, right? Using AI where it makes sense, but also keeping the human touch, the artistic side.
Exactly. Okay, now let's switch gears again and talk about film festivals. They're always hubs for innovation and experimentation.
Yeah, and our roundup mentions several, including the London TV screenings, which have become a really big deal for the industry.
This year, the lineup reflected some big trends, like our continued obsession with crime dramas, especially ones set in different countries.
We're talking shows like Kabul, set during the U.S. withdrawal, and Safe Harbor, which is about the criminal underworld in Rotterdam. Pretty intense stuff.
These shows tap into that human desire for stories that take us out of our comfort zones and expose us to different cultures and perspectives.
We're drawn to those stories that show us a different world, even if it's a bit dark or unsettling.
For sure. And it also shows how strong the crime genre is. It just keeps captivating audiences all over the world.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right? The London TV screenings also had some fresh ideas, like Sunny Nights, that comedy about two siblings starting a spray tan business in Sydney.
Exactly. It's all about balance. Audiences want a mix of things they know and love with some new and unexpected stuff thrown in.
Speaking of new and unexpected, the Hong Kong Asia Film Financing Forum, HAF, is doing something really cool. They're having a special showcase for animation with projects from some really acclaimed filmmakers like Lu Jian and To Yuan.
This is a big deal, you know? It recognizes how important Asian animation has become globally and gives new talent a platform to shine. It's another example of how the entertainment industry is embracing different kinds of storytelling and pushing boundaries.
And those boundaries are always shifting, which is what makes it so exciting to follow. There's always something new to discover, something that challenges us and expands our horizons.
Totally. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's talk about some of the individual achievements and career moves that are making waves in the industry.
It's like getting a sneak peek into how Hollywood works. Who's moving up, who's taking on new challenges, who's getting recognition.
The Roundup highlights some interesting executive moves, which can often tell us about shifts happening in the industry. For example, Jesse Daniels was promoted to Senior VP of Development and Current Programming at Berta Murray Productions.
They're the reality TV powerhouse, right?
Exactly. They've made shows like The Real World and Keeping Up with the Kardashians. This move tells me they're looking for fresh ideas and new ways to reach viewers.
Makes you wonder what they'll come up with next.
Right. And then you've got Nami Patel, a Senior VP at Disney EMEA. She's expanding her role to include consumer strategy. It sounds like they're really focused on understanding their audience and building stronger connections.
It's not enough to just create content anymore. You got to make sure it resonates with people.
Exactly. And over in the film festival world, Mohammed Tariq was appointed artistic director of the Cairo International Film Festival.
Wow, that's a big deal. He'll have a lot of influence on which films get showcased.
All of these appointments show how individuals can really shape the creative direction of the industry. They bring their own unique visions and perspectives.
It reminds us that behind every studio, every network, every production, that are passionate people making things happen. And now let's jump into the world of film development. There are some really interesting projects in the pipeline.
There are some real gems in this roundup. One that caught my eye was The Substance, starring Demi Moore. The article mentioned a transformative performance, which always piques my curiosity.
I love seeing actors like Demi Moore taking on roles that really challenge them, keeps things interesting.
And then there's Bear Country, a survival thriller set in the wilderness, starring Russell Crowe and Nina Dobrev.
Now that's a pairing I wouldn't have expected, but it sounds intense. I can totally see Crowe battling the elements and Dobrev fighting to survive.
And for fans of dark psychological thrillers, there's A Place in Hell, directed by Chloe Domont, and starring Michelle Williams and Daisy Edgar Jones.
Dumont's last film, Fair Play, got a lot of attention, so I have high hopes for this one. And the cast is amazing. The story's supposed to be about these two women at a high-powered law firm, and it explores their really intense relationship.
I'm always drawn to stories that delve into those complex female dynamics.
Okay, now for something completely different, there's Knee-High Spies, a new preschool series for NBC that sounds adorable. It uses puppetry, VFX, and live action.
It's great to see innovative kids programming that sparks their imagination and creativity. I'm always looking for shows that entertain and educate young viewers.
And speaking of pushing boundaries, Simon West, the guy who directed Con Air, is taking on a sci-fi thriller called A Page Odyssey.
It'll be interesting to see how his style translates to a futuristic setting. Can he bring that same intensity and visual flair to a different genre?
We'll have to wait and see. And for some lighter fare, there's Driver's Ed, a teen road trip movie starring Kumail Nanjiani and Molly Shannon, directed by Bobby Farrelly.
Farrelly is a comedy genius, and Nanjiani and Shannon are hilarious together. This one's got all the makings of a classic coming-of-age story, heartwarming moments, awkward encounters, road trip shenanigans.
I can't wait. And we can't forget about the Apple TV Plus comedy series with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. They're playing exaggerated versions of themselves.
And Adela Martinez and Brittany Shibashi are playing their wives. It's going to be all about those crazy sibling dynamics and family relationships.
McConaughey and Harrelson have such great chemistry. I can't wait to see what they do with this. All these projects show just how creative and talented people in the entertainment industry are. It's amazing to see so many people pushing boundaries and telling stories that connect with viewers.
It's a testament to the power of storytelling, and it shows how many possibilities there are for bringing those stories to life on screen. It's really inspiring to see all this talent pushing the limits of what's possible.
But before we get too carried away, it's important to take a step back and think about what this all means for you, the viewer. So as we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive, what are you most excited about? What trends are you seeing? And what do you think the future holds for the world of entertainment? We'll be back in part 3 to continue this conversation. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into February's entertainment news.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have. It's been quite a ride, from lawsuits to AI to all those global trends. But for this last part, let's zoom in on the people and the projects that are really shaking things up.
Those executive moves, the exciting new films in development, it's all a fascinating glimpse behind the curtain of how entertainment gets made.
So let's start with those executive shuffles. Our roundup highlighted a few promotions and appointments that could really change the game, like Jesse Daniels getting promoted to Senior VP of Development and Current Programming at Burnham Murray Productions.
Burnham Murray, they're the reality TV kings, right?
Exactly. The Real World, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, they've made some iconic shows. This move definitely makes you wonder what they're cooking up next.
It does, doesn't it? And then there's Nami Patel, a senior VP at Disney EMEA, expanding her role to include consumer strategy. Seems like they're really doubling down on understanding their audience.
It's not just about making content anymore. It's about making content that really connects with people.
Absolutely. And in the world of film festivals, we saw Mohammed Tarek appointed artistic director of the Cairo International Film Festival.
That's a huge deal. He'll have a big say in which films get showcased and the direction the festival takes.
All these appointments highlight how much influence individuals have in shaping the creative landscape. They bring their own vision, their own perspective.
It's a good reminder that behind all the big studios and networks, there are passionate people driving things forward. Okay, enough about the suits. Let's talk about the movies. There are some really intriguing projects in development that caught my eye.
One that stood out to me was The Substance with Demi Moore. The Roundup talked about a transformative performance, which always gets me excited.
I love seeing actors like Demi Moore take on roles that push them outside their comfort zone. It keeps things fresh and exciting.
Definitely. And then there's Bear Country, a survival thriller set in the wilderness starring Russell Crowe and Nina Dobrev.
That's a pairing I wouldn't have predicted, but it sounds intense. Crowe battling the elements, Dobrev fighting for survival. Sign me up.
And if you're into those dark psychological thrillers, there's a place in hell.
Oh yeah, with Michelle Williams and Daisy Edgar Jones. And it's directed by Chloe DeMont, who made Fair Play, which was amazing. This one's about two women at a high-powered law firm, and their relationship sounds seriously intense.
I'm always fascinated by stories that explore those complex female dynamics.
For sure. Okay, now for something completely different, there's Knee-High Spies, a new preschool series for ABC that sounds adorable.
I love it. It's a mix of puppetry, VFX, and live action. Such a fun way to get kids engaged and using their imaginations.
It's great to see that kind of innovation in children's programming. And speaking of pushing boundaries, Simon West, the director of Con Air, is taking on a sci-fi thriller called A Page Odyssey.
I'm really curious to see what he does with that. Can he bring that same intensity and visual style to a futuristic setting?
We'll have to wait and see. Now, for some laughs, there's Driver's Ed, a peen road trip movie with Kumail Nanjiani and Molly Shannon.
And it's directed by Bobby Farrelly, the king of comedy. That cast, that director, this movie has all the ingredients for a hilarious and heartwarming classic.
And last but not least, we've got the Apple TV Plus comedy series starring Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, well, themselves, but like turned up to 11.
With Natalie Martinez and Brittany Ishibashi playing their wives, it's bound to be a hilarious look at sibling rivalry and family chaos.
McConaughey and Harrelson are always a joy to watch together. They've got such great chemistry.
It's amazing to see all this creativity and talent at work in the entertainment industry.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the power of storytelling, and it shows how many different ways there are to bring those stories to life on screen. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what stood out to you the most? What are you most excited about? What do you think the future holds for the world of film and television? We've explored the legal battles, the AI advancements, the power of storytelling, and the people behind it all. We've seen an industry grappling with change, embracing new technology, and finding fresh ways to connect with audiences. It's a dynamic and exciting time to be a part of this world, and we can't wait to see what happens next. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.